Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. The Public Defender Service Corporation Board of Trustees regular meeting for January 2022 is now called to order. And will the secretary please call the roll?
Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito.
Present, and I'm logging on from my chamber at the Guam Judiciary.
Presiding Judge Alberto C. Lamarna III.
He's mute.
Yeah, he's unmuting himself.
I'm present and I'm at the Guam Judicial Center.
Trustee Cynthia V. Acubi.
Good afternoon, Hafaday, your honors and board members and staff. Cynthia Cuby appearing here in my law office in Hagåtña, Guam.
Trustee Donna Muñoz Canata.
I'm here present at my office in East Hagåtña, Guam Auto Spot.
Guam Bar President Jackie T. Terlahi.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And do notice of the meeting having been provided in our agenda and the secretary having ascertained that we have a quorum for this meeting. The Board of Trustees is able to conduct its regular business. And so with that, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of December 28, 2021. I was excused from this meeting, so I'd ask the PJ if he could entertain a motion to adopt, and I would refrain from voting on this on the minutes.
Motion to adopt. I'm sorry.
Okay, is there a
Sorry,
motion to adopt the rules of the last meeting subject to correction?
Yes, there is.
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Okay, motion made by
I'll second it.
Attorney Kubi and seconded by member Donna Canata. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
Aye.
Motion's- Okay, back to you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Presiding Judge Lamarena. The minutes of December 28 having been duly adopted, the secretary will still note that. The next item is under old business. And the first item is the financial status update by the Finance Comptroller, Mr. Mike Moreno. Mr. Moreno, you have the forum.
Thank you, Chief Justice, and good afternoon to all the members of the board. For Public Defender Service Corporation and the alternate public defender, we have received our first and second allotments for January, and we are at 92%. For the domestic violence program and the EJC, as of today, funding available is still a status quo at with the Stop 2020 at 10,000 and the Stop 2018 sexual assault at 6,000. For the ICJR funding, we have 115,000 still available for invoicing. For the EJC, we have received all the payments for fiscal year 2021. Receivables as of today are for the months of October, November, and December for fiscal 2022, and the total is 34,000. That will be all for the finances.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. And you can assure the board, because I see from your report, but before I continue, I'd just like to recognize President Attorney Jackie Terlahi. I see that she has joined the meeting. Thank you, Jackie, for appearing and joining the meeting. So, Mr. Moreno, I see that the Public Defender Service Corporation continues to advance from local funds, I assume, for these expenses that are subject to reimbursement from these federal programs. And so, number one, is the corporation in a position to continue to provide these advances in order for these programs to continue?
Yes, we are, because we have received the ARP funding for the EJC, and that's where all the reimbursables are being expensed out of. And as far as the DVP is concerned, we are in a position to advance payments. They are paying on a regular basis with a delay of probably 30 to 45 days, and they have been consistent.
All right. And Mr. Hattori, I mean, this is important to the operation of the Public Defender Service Corporation, that we continue with these federal programs and provide this service. Is that your position?
Oh, yeah, I definitely appreciate the fact that we're able to advance it. I mean, eventually we do get reimbursed. So last year we had about 79 protective orders. So the numbers for protective orders seem to, be going up. So we appreciate being able to provide this service, to the people of Guam.
Okay. All right. And then unless any of the Board of Trustees have any concerns, then we will continue with the corporation continue to advance the funds so that these programs can continue and seek reimbursement. It appears that has not been an issue in the past. And so long as the corporation continues to have the finances to be able to provide the advance funds, then we will continue. So if there's no questions for our finance controller, we will go to the next item on the agenda, which is the report of our executive director, Mr. Hattori. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chief Justice, and Happy New Year, board members. I'm glad that you guys are all with us today. On page 6 of the board packet, I mean, the numbers, it's kind of a tough chart to read, but the bottom line is we picked up about 1,144 cases in calendar year 2021. And the reason we did a calendar year, usually we do it by fiscal year, but this is the first year of the new rotation. So it gives you an indication of where our cases are coming under the new courtroom assignment. So, I mean, if you'll see, like, of course, the presiding judge, he always gives us the most number of cases. We picked up 233 cases from his courtroom. And we see that with the other criminal judges, we pick up a substantial amount as well, like the Tolentino 140, and then Senzon should be 217 with Judge Senzon. We also have quite a few from, Referee Ingalls had 95. It appears that although the JD case load is going down, the number of PINS cases have been going up. And so that's a fairly intensive courtroom, and the numbers are pretty high for that. And so we broke it down by courtroom as well as by the number of cases assigned to each attorney. And basically everyone's caseload is well within the national standard for public defenders. And so that's on page 6. Page 7 is a further breakdown of the actual type of cases. And we broke it down by the different types of felonies. I mean, it's pretty clear that we have a large number of really difficult felonies. On page 8, it shows just without the attorneys, but like, for example, criminal sexual conduct, it looks like we have about 34 prejudgment felonies, which is about just a little less than our 56 felony family violence. So it seems to be a substantial portion of our caseload. And so this one is actually our prejudgment cases. So we have 1,122 prejudgment cases. These are cases that have not gone to judgment or been resolved through a plea, a deferred plea, or diversion, or any other program. And then on the right is the breakdown by courtrooms of where our prejudgment cases are. currently at. So for example, in the presiding judges, it showed that we picked up 233 cases in last calendar year. However, 148 remain pre-judgment. And so, that's a really good closure rate for cases that are less than a year old, right? And then the final page 9, this shows like how many prejudgment cases each of the attorneys have, as well as the number of bench warrants. We have 818 outstanding bench warrants, and it's like a long, it's basically a list of our alumni because I'm sure Richard Hank Parker probably has some cases here. So basically, we don't really reassign it until they're picked up on the new warrant, because we don't know what courtrooms that case is going to be reassigned to when they're picked up on the warrant. And so you'll see like Jamie Canto has 4. Those are all bench warrants. When they come in, they'll get reassigned to a new attorney, Jane Kennedy. Kathy Mara has 11. And so like, yeah, I mean, like, how many do I have? I know I have a lot, but that's because I've been here the longest, 89. So these are bench warrants dating from 1998 when I first started here. So, and what we do with these, we just reassign them once they come in and we find out what courtroom they're going to. So I mean, our numbers are actually really good. I think I'm really comfortable with the staffing level that we currently have. I know that we are trying to file more motions to suppress and other motions. We are also trying to handle more appeals. So I think the reduced criminal caseload has given us an opportunity to be more thorough and in our criminal motion practice as well as appeals. Okay, so that's my report for the stats. The only other thing I would like to report is that for EJC we do have an invitation for bid that's closes Friday, right, Kat Cobley?
Correct.
And so we're working on getting them space because that's what they really need. They need a space in a conference room that's safe enough for them to visit. Right now, our EJC staff, they go out in the field, and it's given the high numbers we currently have, it's a little bit dangerous, right? And they've been going to the hospitals, and we found out the hospitals not really happy that we're going over there, and so we're trying to accommodate the hospitals, and so we're trying to work on our.
But Steve, if I may just interrupt, that part of your report is we have a separate item on that, and maybe we should just wait in the EJC until item D on the agenda.
So I have nothing
but-
else to add about.
Yeah, let me say that your report on the case statistics and the just in terms of the breakdown, that's very informative. And with your explanation, it's at least I'm better able to follow and read these statistics. And so I appreciate number one, the information, number two, the explanation. And so looking at this, it becomes more meaningful in reference to the these tables that we have with your report. So are there any questions and comments on the part of any member that you may have of Mr. Hattori regarding his report and the statistical breakdown, other than that the presiding judge is a very hardworking judicial officer here at our judiciary that accomplishes a lot.
Thank you, CJ. Well, most of that is correct, but that's beside the point. Just Steve, I know that you have cases that are assigned to Judge Scola that are still assigned, but I think Danielle assigned most of the Judge Scola cases to Judge Tolentino. So can you double check on that? And if it hasn't been reassigned yet, can you let Danielle know?
Oh, okay, we'll confirm that. Some of those are, if the case was resolved while it was still with Judge Scola, we haven't changed the judge assignment yet until it comes back for further proceeding.
Okay.
So,
And then I noticed that, yeah. So if there are cases that are pre-trial, okay, those are the cases that were resolved. But I think you said that there were pre-trial cases that were still assigned.
Yeah,
the
there's
judges
like
that
8 assigned to
board.
her. So I'll pull those and
Can
I'll
you
make
put
sure
that
that,
to Danielle so that she can reassign those cases? Because we don't want to have any cases fall to the cracks. So if your staff can file a compilation of these cases and give it to Danielle so she can review them, and if it needs reassignment, she can do so. Okay, I appreciate it.
okay. We'll take care of that, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for our executive director? There being none, we'll move on to the report from the APD Managing Attorney, Attorney Annie Gell. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, everybody. We did the first quarter stats from October to December. If you look at the breakdown, we have we got 128 cases. This does not include Richard Dirks. He has helped us, but he's not assigned to any cases. But those are just for the first quarter. The second chart shows the breakdown for calendar year 2021 per attorney and per felony, misdemeanor, bench warrants, and everything. If you notice, it does show a difference of Clyde Lemons and Heather Zona. Actually, Mr. Lemons has taken over Ms. Zona's caseload. We just did that breakdown there, but in essence, he's taking her caseload. So he's got 60 cases, 61 cases there. Ms. Flynn's secretary is on medical leave or on family. She's been on extended leave, but her caseload, I'm sorry, it'll be compiled at the next, the second quarter totals will be compiled next quarter, at the end of next quarter, because her secretary's been on leave. So for the year for this year, we've had 454 cases, which is actually pretty high for us compared to the other. We did a 5-year breakdown. If you go to the last one, page 14, sorry, it shows the breakdown between 2017 and 2021. And it does show that 2020 was low, and I think that had to do with the pandemic. And 2021, we were back more in court, and AGs were working a little bit more and filed a lot more. So our case number is like the highest in the last 5 years, which is kind of interesting. And then below, you'll see the average per attorney, which excludes Mr. Dirks. So, and I wasn't sure, I just noticed that was the first time Mr. Hattori had used the breakdown for each judge. Is that what the board would like to see, a breakdown per judge and for each of the assigned cases to them? I wasn't sure if that's what Your Honor would like, CJ.
I mean, the information it's just for information purposes. And I welcome it. I
Okay,
think
well,
it's-
I'll talk to Mrs. Hattori and we'll see what we can do. But I thought this breakdown was actually pretty interesting as well. Just the different per calendar year. I need to compare it to the court. When the court gives its yearly address, I'll look at the breakdown as well. But anyway, unless you have any other questions, the numbers are there. Thank you, Your Honor.
Like Mr. Hattori, the statistics are informative, and I myself personally welcome this information. Just, we would like a gauge in reference to our staffing at both public defender and APD, and that we're providing the service in response to the demand of the caseload. And so when we go to budget, there's always a picture that you want to paint that you're providing a service to this segment of our community. and that the corporation is able to do it in a professional and effective way. And these statistics certainly help tell that story. So I think we should continue and we should be diligent in our providing this information. Any
agree.
questions thank you, Annie.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
The information is informative and helpful to me.
Thank you.
Any questions for Attorney Gale?
Well, maybe it applies to Steve as well. I know we see the numbers that have been assigned to public defender and APD, but I'm also interested in how many cases you've closed.
Oh,
So that-
closure rates. Okay.
Because, I can see 500 cases assigned to you, but how many of those cases were closed in the last calendar fiscal year? And also how the case aging, how old are these cases? Is there a 2016 case that's still hanging around somewhere? Unless it's, for some reason, aside from being the person picked up on a bench warrant, so that at least we can see how many cases APD and PD are closing every year.
Okay.
So-
As far you're correct though. The older cases are the ones that are the bench warrant cases. So, but I'll work with Mrs. Satori to see if we can come up with some numbers for you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can separate those out. I mean, those cases that are still subject to an outstanding bench warrant, that it's not any fault of the corporation or the court that they are not being processed, and then that can be isolated.
And just to clarify, closed means a judgment has been issued, okay?
Right.
I know that judges keep track on probation ending. If that's the case, there's going to be hundreds and not thousands of those cases.
Right.
But I'd like to know if judgment has been issued, okay?
Okay.
So-
Sounds good.
Deferred order.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So thank you.
All right. So the next item is our Elder Justice Center, and I'll recognize you, Mr. Torrey, if you don't mind, if you could just repeat some of the entry comments that you were making in reference to the Elder Justice Center. Preliminary comments, I should say.
Okay, thank you, Chief Justice. I know someone else will be presenting the report, but I just wanted to add that, with the ARP money, we are seeking a lease so that they have office space close to the main office. We've learned that many of the services we provide need witnesses, so we're using witnesses from the main office, and it'll be a lot easier if they're closer to us. We're also having to deal with going and doing outreach and meeting clients at their homes and at the hospitals. And so we are going to have to take special efforts, especially in the next few weeks, to ensure that we keep our clients safe as well as our staff. But as far as the presentation, Your Honor, I believe, is it Kathy Moylan presenting, or?
Before we switch over to whoever's making the report, just in terms of some of your comments, when you say closer, what are you talking about? I mean, did you go out on a RFP? And does that mean that you're going to pull out the staff from the Mingilau facility where we had that groundbreaking and all that? There was a lot to do there.
Yes.
What
It was a
what's
great
the
groundbreaking. But
what's the shortcoming and what do you mean by closer? What's happening?
So we're looking for office space really close to the main office so that we can share some resources, mainly witnesses or if they need a notary. And so we send out an invitation to bid, and I think it's Friday's the deadline. So we're still waiting for people to submit requests.
Is there any space? Do you contemplate any space within the Sinahania Business Center there that is going to be available that will respond to your invitation for bid, whatever the procurement format is?
That's what we're hoping for. Right now, we've really only had one or two people request even a package.
Kathy, how many people picked up the package?
Right now, we only have one prospective person interested in lease space. It's only for 6 months, and it was open to the Agana, Samahanya area, so we're not eliminating any potential renters for us. So it closes, right now we only have one, and it closes this Friday, so we've had it out for about 3 weeks.
And
So
6 months is to coincide with the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah, and also we need to go out on bid for our office space, so we'll do it as a complete packet when we're ready
see.
to go out for our office space come into the fiscal year.
All right. And when you said that you want to share space in terms of, I think you said notary or witness. So
Yeah.
what is the plan? Who is going to move into this new office space that you're trying to procure?
So we're looking at the EJC to move into this new space, and when we were in Manila, we had and Your Honor, I know that you saw the space that we were in. To house 5 people was really ridiculous. I think 4, but it was uncomfortable and it was difficult. And I know that when we had board meetings and we had the EJC report in from Manila, you can hear everything else that's happening in the background. So for us to entertain clients as well as have the staff in a cohesive environment, it just didn't make it in Manila. So we're looking for bigger space, and so whoever bids for this space would have to accommodate the staff that we currently have at EJC.
And what about the computers, the office furniture, equipment, and all that? Is that all going to have to be?
We have all that. We'll have all that. So with the computers that we have for EJC, they took over the computers that we aged out, and so we're looking at procuring more through the ARP.
All right. Okay. Any questions well, before we do, there was something that someone was going to present on this slide presentation of the Elder Justice Center. And who is that? Is that you, Kathy? Are you the one that's going to make the report?
It'll be Kathy Moylan.
Kathy Moylan, okay. Kathleen Moylan, I don't see her on this. Oh, there you are. Okay, Kathy, I see you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Thank you, Chief Justice and Presiding Judge and board members. For the first quarter, for this fiscal year, our activities focused on these 4 main areas: the legal services, training and technical assistance, outreach and collaboration, as well as in our advisory council. And so on the next table, if I may ask, this really provides a summary on those 4 different categories. For legal services for the first quarter, under inquiries, we received 156 inquiries from our seniors and the public at large. We added 104 seniors to our waiting list. We were able to open 171 new cases and close 121 cases. Under training and technical assistance, our team was able to participate in several of these events. Those included case management system training, technical assistance meetings with Ms. Jeanette Gomez from the Division of Senior Citizens, as well as attend mandatory orientation with the Division of Senior Citizens. And then finally, in the last column, under outreach and collaboration, through that first quarter, and actually we anticipated even this evening, we continue our outreach efforts with the Geriatric Workforce Enhancement Program with Drs. Lee and Dr. Anna on advanced care planning. And also noted here is the collaboration, and this one is really, we want to highlight the efforts of our senior law clerk, Ms. Jessica Lee, for reaching out to GSAT, our Guam System for Assistive Technology, for identifying assistive devices that can help our seniors as well as their families. And then finally, on the last chart on the next page, just a little more detail in terms of the types of inquiries we were receiving. Of the 156, you can see there, the 4, the 4 different categories that we're allowed to assist with. What's interesting are the other types of inquiries that are coming in. I mean, you can see there's probate, there's deed of gift, unlawful detainer. I mean, it's such a wide spectrum. And I want to use this opportunity to share with the board that one of our seniors specifically called us and asked that we share this with our board. And they're asking if we could expand the scope of our services to include deeds of gift. In addition to the inquiries, you'll see the referrals. Many of our referrals went out to the Guam Bar Association for the Lawyer Referral Service, as well as our partners out there like Guam Legal Services, Micronesian Legal Services, the Office of the Public Guardian, APS, and CPS. And then finally, you'll see a little breakdown on our open and closed cases, just so that you can see the types of cases we were closing. And so I just wanted to add that we do anticipate conducting the first advisory council meeting in March. It was in late December, Your Honor, that the Elder Justice Center started its transition and physical move to the main public defender office. We want to express our gratitude to the Division of Senior Citizens for providing us the office space and really their support while we were there. We are continuing to work with them very closely regarding our reports, our data, and their case management system to reconcile all our reporting requirements. As we begin the second quarter, we also welcome additional staff, and that's Ms. Vera Cruz, our legal secretary supervisor, and Dee Siba as our legal clerk. Our gratitude to Ms. Stacy and Kaylani for their incredible contributions to our team between the pilot and then moving into the second phase of the project as a permanent division. And so to the CJ and the board members, thank you for this opportunity to provide you this information.
Thank you, Kathleen. I do have some questions before I open it up to the floor. So thank you for providing us the information on the open and closed services that are provided. And the closed cases, are these cases just the cases that were recently open? I recall that sometime there was a substantial backlog of cases that needed to be serviced. I don't see any report here in terms of what's the backlog and how is that being addressed, and are you doing it in any order? Because this seems to suggest to me that as you open the cases, you're closing the same cases that are recently being opened. And if I was someone who is part of that backlog, I wouldn't be very happy. And so how is that being addressed?
Yeah. No, thank you for pointing that out, Your Honor, and we'll revise this so that way that data will be included here. And you're right. When we ended the pilot, there was we did have a number of cases to still close. And so this report only represents just this quarter, right? And I didn't include the year to date. And so my apologies for that. I can say for the most part, when it comes to our wait lists, right? And we do have some significant strides to still perform. We have about a little over 300 to 360 that we still have to address. So the wait list is long, Your Honor. We were able to make considerable strides in October and December for purposes of closure. But my apologies again, I didn't include that here, but I will include that for the next report.
Well, I don't think that's acceptable, Steve, in terms of how this process is happening. If you have a substantial backlog, I expect that the backlog is going to be addressed, before we address cases that are, we don't want to ignore any case, but we can't ignore the backlogs for people who have been waiting for a substantial period of time. I don't know what that period of time is. So that process has to change. We can't continue that as business as usual. That will leave them outstanding while, we just address cases that we open for the quarter. Do you have any response to that, Steve?
Oh, so Chief Justice, yeah, all the cases they're opening are people from the wait list. So they're working through the wait list, and then of course, if
no, that's not what is being said here. That's not my understanding. If that's the case, then those are not recently open cases. Those are cases that have been opened that you're now addressing.
Maybe Kat could I guess there's different definition of open, right? So a DSC has a definition of open where we have to do a like an IPR, which is well, maybe Kat, you could explain. I'm not. There's some form that we have to have the senior fill out, but everyone we're
You're-
servicing are from the wait list, right? We're not.
Yes, we are. Yes. And so just to I hope I can reassure you, Your Honor, we are addressing the open cases. Just as a summary, there is an intake, like Mr. Hattori is saying, where they provide us what they call an IPR, an intake profile and referral form. And then from there, we open up a case and then we conduct a legal intake and then it's assigned. So the cases have been assigned to the attorneys. Once they're with the attorneys, then we're guided by them with their work directly with the senior.
So I see that Kat Seguenza is on the virtual call. What is your role now, Kat, and how do you operate in terms of processing the cases?
Hi, Your Honor. I didn't check my video. There I am. Okay. I come in at the point where the intakes have been conducted and they are assigned to an attorney. The process that it sounds like to me that you're concerned with all takes place before it gets to the attorney. Just to give you an idea I just received a text, Your Honor, that might be able to give you some perspective. 1 minute. So there definitely still is a long wait list, okay? We have this one client, and this is just an example to let the board know the extent of the wait list that we're talking about. There was one individual who was placed on what we call now wait list number 4 on November 3rd, okay? So this client called and said, look, I was placed on the wait list on November 3rd. It's now almost the end of January and I haven't heard anything. So I asked the staff to give us an idea of how long do they anticipate that it's going to take us to get to this individual. And the numbers are pretty staggering. They said we still have 46 seniors still pending services for waitlist 2. We have 123 seniors on waitlist 3, and we have 52 seniors on waitlist 4. Now, this individual that I was just talking about is number 55 on waitlist 4. So before we can get to him, it looks like we have to get through 46 plus 123 plus 152 plus 55. That's a big number. So I think the bottom line is there's a tremendous wait list. And that's where the bottleneck seems to be.
Yeah.
It seems
And,
like
you know,
there's a lot of, it seems, Steve, that there's a lot of red tape in this intake process that is delaying the request to get to the lawyer for the actual service, whether it's to prepare a will, a power of attorney. It sounds like the intake process takes longer than providing the service. And
Yes,
that's
Your
not
Honor.
acceptable. That is just not acceptable. We need to cut the red tape so we can provide the service. So has there been any review on the part of you or John to look at the process or delegate it to look at the process and determine why all this delay in processing the intake?
Yeah. So, I mean, our staff has done a great job so far, given the resources, but going forward, I mean, I think we do at least about 100 intakes a month, right? And we've been getting assistance from the case management office at DSC. So if some other service providers done an IPR, then we use the one that they send us. So we don't have to do it in every case. So we've shortened or reduced the number of IPRs that we have to do.
Yeah.
In the future, Your Honor, we are going to be hiring a full-time attorney, and I think that's really gonna get the ball rolling. And so once we have a full-time attorney on board, we anticipate being able
But, you
to
know, you're
process a
getting
lot
the
more.
attorney. I'm not seeing the problem is the attorneys who are servicing.
Yeah.
There's no report that the delay is caused by the attorney. And
Yeah.
so I'd like for you or someone to focus on the intake and take a look at that process and see if you need more resources, if you need to streamline and cut out all this lengthy intake process, then let's do that.
And Your Honor, if I may, to compound the problem, and again, as Steve said, the staff has been doing a great job with what they have to work with. But in addition to these waitlisted people, calls come in, those 156 inquiries that came in this last quarter. A good majority of those are what we call urgent cases. Those cases get bumped even before the waitlisted clients. So, you know, in this business, almost every case is urgent. So I think that your point of beefing up the intake staff and streamlining the process, I think if we worked in those areas, it would be helpful.
So have you been able to look at that, Attorney Seguenza, and determine?
No, my last my last contribution there was when we renegotiated the amended contract with the Department of Public Health. During the pilot program, we were required to do what was called the IPR, which was a 9-page intake sheet, which primarily is a public health's responsibility. That was slipped in the original contract. So in the amended contract, we dealt with that problem, and we put the onus of the IPR back on public health, I think where it should be. So to my knowledge, we're not doing IPRs, but again, I'm not privy to that. That was my last involvement, to be able to help get rid of the burden of having to do the IPRs for public health.
So Kathleen, how is it that we can streamline the intake process and get the case from the time of meeting the senior citizen client to the lawyer? How can we shorten that time period?
Your Honor, I apologize. I wasn't sure whether you were directing that to me, but I do.
Yes,
have-
yes,
Yes.
Kathleen Boylan. It's directed to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, Attorney Cat is correct. We have streamlined the process. We do need that IPR. And we did have extensive meetings with case management services, along with Ms. Evelyn Manabusan, because she's here in this meeting. And they've been providing us the IPR, Your Honor. What we've been doing is what we call now a legal intake with the questionnaire. But what can definitely streamline is part of our process also included in assisting the attorneys in doing the questionnaires. What we can do now, we are automatically opening. We can just transfer it now to the attorneys, and then that way they will have the direct contact with the seniors. What we were doing, and this is on my background with the advocacy side, is that we would assist in completing the questionnaires with the seniors. But in order to streamline, we can eliminate that, Your Honor, and just transfer the files immediately, because we have a lot of open cases. And it's really just getting it to them, so then that way they can close. And then we can streamline in terms of constantly opening and addressing the influx coming in. And that will really streamline things. And so I would recommend that to our bosses, that we just eliminate that portion in terms of going through the questionnaires, and it just goes directly with the attorney, so they could have those consultations directly with our seniors.
So Kat, just to follow up, Kat, I think what we're saying is almost the same thing. It's going to depend on where you have your staff. If you have one part-time attorney or one attorney, and then you have one intake person, either one of those two people are you're going to have to increase the staff, either the attorney or the intake person. And that will dictate how the process goes. Because right now, if we just send it over to the lawyer, we're going to be in the same position. You got one person doing it all. So it almost seems to me
So
like
that
we
was
need-
our intent, right? To assist the attorneys, but if
Yeah,
that were,
yeah.
then it does take time, Your Honor, to
Yeah.
complete that
Yeah.
process.
Chief Justice, so
You know, the more we talk about it, Your Honor, and again, I wasn't prepared to chime in on this, but it looks like it's back to a staffing issue.
yeah,
Well,
and so
Evelyn
Chief
has her
Justice,
hand up.
we've,
Let me just say, I'd like to recognize Evelyn, and Steve, I'll recognize you. She's had her hand up for a while.
oh,
Evelyn?
sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. I come from the Department of Public Health, and so I just want to let you know that the Elder Justice Center has done a tremendous job with working with us. And if it is in the intake process that we are now finding snags or things like that, we certainly would take a look at meeting with the team again and reviewing that. If it's on our side, because we need certain information that we collect, we certainly would like to smooth the transitions or smooth the way so that they can get directly to the attorneys that need to provide the services to the elders. So if we're having a snag in the waitlisting numbers looking so high as it is, just to let history not repeat itself, because we did start out with a large amount that they really have already worked through from waitlist 1. This is just recurring into waitlist 4 that we are now at, but certainly we can work with the center to be able to get what we need streamlined so that we can. Yes.
Thank you, Evelyn, for that clarification and that offer of cooperation. You know, it just seems to me like Jackie and QB and some lawyers that have been in practice that, you know, we've been involved in an intake process of processing information in order to provide legal services. When you have a 9-page intake form, you know, there may be data and information that's relevant to the program, separate and apart from the legal service that is requested to be performed. And, you know, if that's a requirement of public health and keeping or compiling this information and data in order for other purposes that may be relevant to the program, then we don't want to impede that. But if it's going to slow down providing the service to the senior citizen who needs, you know, their power of attorney because it's an urgent matter and they need to see the lawyer in a faster way than waiting weeks and months, in this case, November. And it's, you know, now coming to middle part of January, we really have a responsibility as a organization to provide a quicker turnaround and a more efficient process. And so I'd ask Steve if you can focus more attention and work with the proper staff in trying to streamline the process. And, you know, we've gotten Elder Justice Center off the ground. We're all very proud of that. We're providing a tremendous service to this segment of the community that, you know, is in high need of assistance. We don't need to create red tape and, you know, have a 9-page intake process in order to draft a power of attorney. And so let's try and reduce the bureaucratic red tape and be more responsive to the needs of the clients. That's my input and that's my request. Steve, you're recognized.
Oh, no, and Chief Justice, we totally agree with you. We, you know, part of the plan also is we're transitioning over the staff that we use for the victim service unit. They're also going to be attached to the Elder Justice Center. So when they have spare time, they'll be able to provide additional support. We did do about 79 protective orders and restraining orders last year. And we have a victim advocate that was on call, you know, during the course of the year, but there are, you know, there's a lot of downtime waiting for victims to come in and seek our services. And so now that unit's also going to be providing additional support to the Elder Justice Center. So we're looking at a team of about 5 staffers, and then we're hoping to hire a full-time attorney in the next couple of weeks. And then I think the ball will really get rolling at that point, because we really want to eliminate this wait list. I mean, but we just, we want the seniors to know that once they're done with intake, they're going to see a lawyer in a timely manner. Right now, when they're sitting on the wait list, but they haven't really completed the intake process, so they're not anticipating. I mean, they know that they're going to have to wait their turn, but we are, taking urgents out of order. And I know our team, I mean, they're more frustrated than I am about not being able to help more seniors. So once we get that lawyer hired, I think Kat Moylan will make sure we really get the ball rolling there.
All right, thank you. Any questions on the part of any of our trustees? All right,
I
there
do
being
have a
none.
question. Chief Justice,
Yes.
I do have a question,
Jackie?
thank you. It's for Steve in terms of the level of interest. Has there been an expression of interest from the attorneys to take this 6-month position? Because I see that as a significant challenge for you and trying to figure out an alternative in the event that you can't hire an attorney for that 6-month window.
Yeah. So we received ARP money to fund an attorney for 2 years. And so the position was announced as a limited term for 2 years. We're hoping to consolidate the victim service unit within that section. And when we seek a fiscal year 2023 budget, we're hoping that they'll supplement the grant we get from public health and fully fund the Outer Justice Center as well as the victim service unit.
I'm a little confused. Jackie, you said 6 months and Steve said 2 years. I'm not familiar with the requests for proposal or whatever the bid procurement procedure that is being followed. Kathy, I see you have your hands up.
Your Honor, I think maybe Attorney Sherlandi, you confused our IFB for office space being only 6 months, but the attorney with the ARP, it is correct. It will take us up until FY 2023, and we'll include the full staffing pattern for EJC in our FY 2024 budget. But we'll include the funding for FY 2023 that is funded by ARP in our budget as a documentation saying that come FY 2024, we're hoping that the general fund will fund EJC.
So
Yes,
to me,
I did mess it up. Sorry, Chief.
okay, all right, Jackie, that's fine. That so as I understand, the request for proposal for the lawyer service tied to the ARP funding is initially for 2 years, but I would assume that if there is a response and there is an interview, this is a permanent division now, the public defender. This is being funded initially with these federal funds, but the hope is to then request and make this part of the public defender's budget requests going to the legislature. I mean, that was the whole desire and request and push to have the Elder Justice Center become a permanent division of the public defender. So I would think that, I'm just suggesting that maybe it's part of the interview. While initially, because of the funding source, that this has to be done in this way, that there is some commitment that there is going to be a effort to try and fund this and for the longer term, to provide an incentive for a qualified lawyer to respond to this request for proposal. That's an aside more than anything. All right, any other questions, comments? There being none, let's move to the next item on the agenda, and that's the law enforcement pay. And who do I recognize? Kathy or Gogui? Or you going to speak to this, or Steve?
Your Honor, we are doing our assessment of how the pay will affect our budget, and we have no recommendation. We just wanted to bring it to the board. And what we can do is bring up our full assessment of the law enforcement pay and how it will affect the organization, not just for law enforcement, but the entire organization. I think that we're taking the same course that the judiciary is going to follow in terms of how they want to integrate law enforcement pay within the organization. So we just wanted to bring this up to the board to say that this is on the table. We know that the executive branch is going to implement this on January 30th, but we are not prepared to do that at this point at the public defender.
All right, so we'll treat this as for information purposes. So my understanding then from that summary, Kathy, is that the administrative staff will examine the information provided here, compare it with what our law enforcement investigators are making at the public defender, see how it affects the other staff compensation and in terms of pay parity, and then have a report back to the public defender. Just keep in mind that if this is something that you wish the board to act on, to be part of the budget process, that be brought to the board in a timely way so that we can discuss this and determine if this is how we wish to proceed. So I myself, I'm looking, to the recommendation of the administrative staff in terms of how they wish to respond to this pay adjustment on the part of the law enforcement for the line agencies, and how it affects our investigator staff personnel there at the public defender.
And so, Your Honor, we'll do that in the interim. We'll also reach out to Adelup and find out if they have a plan for paying us for the cost of this 18% increase. And if not, then we'll have to find an alternate funding source if the board wants to approve it. The memo that we received from DOA, I don't know if they actually served it on us, but it suggested that, of course, our board is the ultimate determiner of whether or not we're going to implement the 18%. Unfortunately,
well, I read this memo, and the public defender is lumped with the judiciary in terms of this is for your information, and examine it and see what you would like to do in response. But there's nothing there to offer any funding to pay for this adjustment, other than they will provide the funding. The governor will provide the funding for the line agencies, law enforcement that is enumerated in this report. So I think we can assume that if we are going to make an adjustment, that number one, you find it in the funds that you currently have in your budget, or number two, that you make the request at the next budget cycle with the Guam legislature, because they're the legislature controls the purse string, and they're the ones that have the authority to appropriate. And we didn't account for this, not that I recall of, and it's not included in our current year budget that was approved by the legislature.
And so, Chief Justice, the DOA recognized that this board has the authority to basically establish the pay scale for the office, and we were wondering if, rather than just looking at the investigators, whether we should try to commission a pay study for our agency, like Guam Waterworks, GPA, all the autonomous agencies seem to have commissioned their own pay studies, and so it seems like DOA would defer to this board if we were to pursue a pay study on our own. And
well, let's not just accept that representation. If we're going to go down that path, I want the administration to examine that question of cite proper authority in reference to that the corporation board of trustees have the authority to adopt its own pay scale, not in line with the pay scale of the executive branch, because that's how the corporation has been proceeding. It's in line with, that the Hayes study that was provided, and there's an attorney pay scale. There's the pay scale that that has been adopted by the Department of Administration, and I'm not informed that that's not how it's been followed in the past. And if we're going to go in a separate path, I want it to be properly examined, authorities cited, and if that's the case, and we do have that authority, then the Board of Trustees will act accordingly. But we can't do that in just a oral
Oh, no,
discussion.
first things first, right? We'll do the research.
All right, thank you. So this is for information purposes. It will be brought back to the Board of Trustees with a recommendation from the administration in which how to proceed, and the impact both as far as parity with the other staff, pay parity, and the effect on the financial budget and what it's going to cost if there's a recommendation to adjust, and where those funds are going to come from. All right, next item is the public discussion. Is there any member of the public that is in our reception area that is asked to be heard? There being none, the next meeting of the board will be on Tuesday, February 22nd, 2030, and 12:30, I'm sorry. And that's to be preceded with lunch to be served, I assume. But thank you very much in all seriousness for the lunch this afternoon. And if there's no other questions, comments, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn, Your Honor.
All right, it's been moved by
Seconded.
Trustee Cynthia Ekubi, seconded by Trustee Donna Kinata. Any objection? There being none, the motion carries, and we are duly adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your participation this afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Your
Thank
Honor.
you.